While the focus in Westminster is all on Brexit at the moment, today came a surprise announcement in the Commons about the NHS. At least one London hospital will be saved from closure. The Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, said Charing Cross Hospital won't now be demolished. It comes after a 7-year fight by the Save Our Hospitals campaign. Our political correspondent, Simon Harris, is at the hospital in Hammersmith this evening. Simon, a sudden U-turn. Why?
Yes, Nina, as you say, for 7 years, campaigners have been fighting plans to close hospitals and downgrade A&E facilities in West London. For 7 years, their pleas to ministers to spare Ealing Hospital and Charing Cross Hospital here in Hammersmith fell on deaf ears. The NHS wanted to demolish the hospitals and redevelop the sites with smaller care facilities. But then today came this surprise announcement in Parliament.
Shaping a Healthier Future is no longer supported by the Department for Health and Social Care, by NHS Improvement or NHS England.
That short sentence, lasting less than 8 seconds, seemed to spell the end of one of London's most controversial hospital closure programmes, and it led to angry exchanges between the Minister and Labour MPs.
Why has he not thought it appropriate to bring forward a statement so that the many of us who are concerned with this issue would have an opportunity to interrogate the many very serious implications this has for the delivery of healthcare across West London?
The Honourable Lady and the Honourable Gentleman who she sits next to have run over a number of years totally inappropriate scare stories. I think it's been one of the worst aspects of local parliamentary campaigning.
Abandoning Shaping Healthier Future is a victory for the people of Hammersmith, for the Save Our Hospitals campaigners and for our Labour Council, but it's shown appalling judgment by a succession of governments and secretaries of state. Will he now apologise to my constituents?
But there was no apology.
So what's been the response from the campaigners who fought to stop these closures?
Well, Nina, when the news broke, a small group of them gathered outside Charing Cross Hospital here in Hammersmith, and car horns were tooted as they went past. But I don't think the news has really sunk in just yet, but it is safe to say that tonight they'll be in a mood to celebrate.
We actually can't believe it. Some of us have been in tears. We know that it might not all be over because they can always change their mind. There's big NHS cuts coming here and we'll fight them as well. But for this today, we want to say, look, campaigning works, we've done it, and we're really proud of everybody who's been involved.
We still don't know the new plans for the two hospitals in West London. We still don't know if hospital bosses plan to reduce the number of beds. But one thing is clear tonight, Nina, both at Charing Cross Hospital and at Ealing Hospital, the A&E departments have been saved.
Simon, thank you. There was cause to celebrate among campaigners tonight too, after years of fighting. We're told accident and emergency services at 2 London hospitals will now stay open. The Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, made the surprise announcement in the Commons, confirming Charing Cross and Ealing hospitals will not be demolished. Our political correspondent, Simon Harris, reports.
For 7 years, the future of Charing Cross and Ealing hospitals has been in doubt. The NHS wanted to close them and redevelop the sites. But then today, an unexpected announcement.
Shaping a Healthier Future is no longer supported by the Department for Health and Social Care, by NHS Improvement or NHS England.
That short sentence, lasting less than 8 seconds, seemed to spell the end of one of London's most controversial hospital closure programmes, and it led to angry exchanges between the Minister and Labour MPs.
Why has he not thought it appropriate to bring forward a statement so that the many of us who are concerned with this issue would have an opportunity to interrogate the many very serious implications this has for the delivery of healthcare across West London?
The Honourable Lady and the Honourable Gentleman who she sits next to have run over a number of years totally inappropriate scare stories. I think it's been one of the worst aspects of local parliamentary campaigning.
Abandoning Shaping Healthier Future is a victory for the people of Hammersmith, for the Save Our Hospitals campaigners and for our Labour Council, but it's shown appalling judgment by a succession of governments and secretaries of state. Will he now apologise to my constituents?
But there was no apology. Campaigners, however, were celebrating.
We actually can't believe it. Some of us have been in tears. We know that it might not all be over because they can always change their mind. There's big NHS cuts coming here and we'll fight them as well. But for this today, we want to say, look, campaigning works, we've done it, and we're really proud of everybody who's been involved.
It wasn't immediately clear whether NHS bosses still plan to cut the number of beds at the two hospitals. But tonight, the A&E departments at both Charing Cross and Ealing hospitals have been saved. Simon Harris, ITV News, Hammersmith.
Has there been a more crucial night in the Brexit process than this? In the last hour, the Prime Minister has told Tory MPs she will not stand in the way of her party electing a new leader for the second phase of negotiations. Effectively, that means she will quit if her deal is passed in the Commons, the same deal that has, of course, already been rejected twice. Our political correspondent Simon Harris is in Westminster. Simon.
Nina, when Mrs May fought off successfully a leadership challenge in December, Tory party rules said she should have been safe for another 12 months. But, as you said, in the last hour, in a dramatic announcement to her own MPs in a committee room here in the Houses of Parliament, Mrs May has said her time at number 10 is coming to an end. She will return to her old job as the backbench MP for Maidenhead a lot earlier than planned. She says she'll give up the premiership once Brexit is delivered. Tonight the big question is when or if that will be. But the Prime Minister's announcement came at the end of mounting speculation about her future. Wednesday lunchtime in London means Prime Minister's questions, and Mrs May was giving the impression of business as usual.
We are continuing to work to ensure that we can deliver Brexit for the British people and guarantee that we deliver Brexit for the British people.
But one veteran Tory MP with a long memory was convinced something was in the air.
I've now been a Member of Parliament for 36 years and the number of colleagues in the House now haven't been there for very long. So I have seen the end of a Prime Minister and a leader before, and I sense that this is very much the end.
The Labour leader, not surprisingly, had an uncompromising message for Mrs May.
Either listen and change course or go. Which is it to be?
In London and the home counties, 24 Tory MPs refused to back Mrs May's deal last month. But in the space of just 2 weeks, the political landscape has significantly changed.
Revoke Article 50!
Today, MPs took control of the Commons to try to find a way out of the deadlock. Among the options, a softer Brexit, a second referendum, perhaps no Brexit at all. But would it be enough to spook the Tory hardliners and make them finally back Mrs May?
Nothing's changed. I don't agree with the withdrawal agreement. It's not true Brexit. It actually keeps us in the EU to a large extent and potentially locks us in legally for years to come with the backstop. How can I vote for something which is not Brexit?
Would it make a difference to you if Theresa May set out a timetable for leaving tonight?
No, because we'd still be left with her deal, which could trap us indefinitely in the backstop. You tell me how that would change the backstop, her resignation. I'm not sure it would, if that is the price to support her deal. I cannot support a bad deal. I would prefer a good deal, but I'm not going to support a bad deal.
Mrs May knew she needed to win over more rebels. It was against that backdrop she held her crucial meeting with Tory backbenchers this afternoon.
Simon, an impossible question. What do you think will happen next?
Well, the next immediate thing that will happen is a lot of people will be speculating about who's going to be the next Tory party leader. And of course, the big question is, will the former Mayor Boris Johnson throw his hat into the ring? But I think it's worth reflecting a little bit on what Mrs May said to her MPs. Now, we assume that this is a tactic to try to persuade those refuseniks, like John Barron that we heard from there, to come over and back her deal, however unlikely that might be after what we heard from him. But let me read to you what Mrs May said to her MPs in that committee room in the Commons a short time ago. She said, "I have heard very clearly the mood of the parliamentary party. I know there is a desire for a new approach and new leadership in the second phase of the Brexit negotiations, and I won't stand in the way of that. I am prepared to leave this job earlier than I intended in order to do what is right for our country and our party." Now, we can only assume if she gets her deal through and the extension to Article 50 stands, that Mrs May will go on the 22nd or 23rd of May.
Simon Harris, thank you.
Good evening. While Brexit discussions, debates and votes continue over at Westminster, there's been a debate of a different sort happening in the corridors of Parliament. Just who could take over from Theresa May? But if rumours are to be believed, the front-runner appears to be a man who used to be our Mayor of London and is the current MP for Uxbridge, Boris Johnson, of course. But speculation aside, what exactly are his chances? Our political correspondent Simon Harris has been taking a look.
The only running Boris Johnson was doing today was running away from the cameras, on his bike, of course.
Will you be running for leadership, Mr Johnson?
But in his Uxbridge constituency, voters weren't quite so shy.
I would say he is probably the least qualified person to become Prime Minister.
I don't like the way he's kind of just outed Theresa May.
No, I don't think he'll be a Prime Minister material.
I'm not his greatest fan.
I don't think he'll make a good Prime Minister. I think he's quite an entertaining politician, but I don't think he'll make a good Prime Minister.
Sonia Purnell is a former newspaper colleague who wrote a less than flattering biography of him. She thinks he'll find it hard to resist one more attempt to be Prime Minister.
I think he will have one last go. I like to think that he won't be successful because I really don't think he's fit for high public office, but he won't give up just yet, no.
Boris Johnson often used his weekly newspaper column to attack the Prime Minister's Brexit strategy. The Brexit dream is dying, he said in July last year. Only this week, he accused Mrs May of bottling it. Now, suddenly, he's ready to support her deal.
My name is Boris Johnson.
He may be a lowly backbench MP now, but for more than a decade, he's enjoyed a high public profile. The TV appearances were followed by 8 years in charge at City Hall and a stint as Foreign Secretary. There were blunders and rows. He once said women in burqas looked like letterboxes.
Some of the language is used to describe the clothes that Londoners wear. The idea that that person is fit and proper to be a Prime Minister is a question that Tory members would have to answer, not me.
I think we need a leader for the 2020s, not the 1920s, and I think that means the grassroots of our party really challenging itself to say not just who they want, but who they think Britain wants.
3 years ago, Boris Johnson was regarded as a front-runner to replace David Cameron. In the end, he couldn't muster enough support and pulled out. This time would almost certainly be his last chance.
Couldn't muster enough support last time round. What about this time? How popular is he?
Oh, make no mistake, Boris Johnson still has plenty of fans in the Conservative Party. You only have to look at polls of grassroots members to see that. The big question, though, is how much support does he have from fellow Conservative MPs? Because their backing is crucial if he's to get his name on the ballot paper after entering the knockout contest. And to be perfectly honest, it really is hard to judge because every Tory MP we spoke to today was just reluctant to even discuss the leadership contest until after Brexit is sorted out. But make no mistake, members of Mr Johnson's team will be taking soundings to find out just how much support he does have.
I'm sure they will. Now, they may not want to talk about it, but it's what everyone else is talking about. So who potentially could he be up against?
Well, he may be one of the best-known potential candidates to replace Mrs May, but he doesn't have to look too far from his West London constituency to see who his rivals might be. Just across the border, as it were, in Surrey, there are no fewer than 3 MPs thought to be strong contenders. Jeremy Hunt, the Foreign Secretary, Michael Gove, the Environment Secretary, and Dominic Raab, the former Brexit Secretary, all thought to be in with a chance. Now, of course, that doesn't take into account other MPs from outside London, people like Sajid Javid, the Home Secretary. He also has been tipped as a possible new future Prime Minister, leader of the Conservative Party. We wait to see who is going to be the first to formally declare they're entering the race.
Oh, we shall see. Simon, thanks very much for that.